I'll never forget the day it happened. The company-wide email announcing a strategic reorganization hit my inbox at 9:03 a.m. on a Tuesday. We all knew what that meant. Layoffs were coming, and everyone was walking on eggshells, desperately hoping they wouldn't be among the unlucky ones. Little did I know, my professional life was about to collide with Melissa Anderson's in a way I never expected. Have you ever had that one coworker who seemed to exist solely to make your life miserable? That was Melissa for me. For 3 years, we'd been locked in a silent Cold War that everyone in the office could feel, but nobody dared mention. She was the golden child of the marketing department, Harvard MBA, connections in all the right places, and the uncanny ability to take credit for everyone else's ideas, while somehow avoiding any blame when projects went south. My calendar pinged with a meeting request from HR. Room 301, 30 minutes from now. My heart sank to my stomach as I looked across the open office floor to see Melissa staring at me, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. She knew. Somehow, she already knew. Before I continue with what happened next, if you're dealing with workplace drama or unfair treatment, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more stories and advice on navigating difficult professional situations. The walk to room 301 felt like the longest journey of my life. My colleagues avoided eye contact as I passed the corporate version of watching someone walk the plank. Through the glass walls, I could see Janet from HR and my direct manager, Tim, waiting with solemn expressions. "Please, have a seat," Janet said, gesturing to the chair across from them. As you may have heard, the company is undergoing some changes. The rest was a blur of corporate euphemisms: restructuring, right-sizing, your position has been eliminated. Translation, you're fired. After 5 years of dedicated service, late nights, and sacrificed weekends, I was being let go with a paltry severance package and hollow promises of recommendation letters. As I walked back to my desk, stunned and clutching my termination paperwork, I heard a distinct laugh from the break room. Melissa's laugh. I turned to see her watching me through the doorway, coffee mug in hand, making no attempt to hide her amusement at my professional execution. "Guess we'll finally see how valuable you really were," she said, just loud enough for me to hear. Before turning back to her conversation with our VP of sales, I felt the heat rise in my face as I packed my personal items into a cardboard box provided by HR. Family photos, my world's okayest employee mug, the small potted succulent that had somehow survived years of neglect, the physical manifestations of a career that was now over. Security escorted me out. "Standard procedure," they said. Nothing personal. But it felt deeply, painfully personal as I caught sight of Melissa watching from the window, that same self-satisfied smile on her face. That night, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and self-pity, replaying the day's events and Melissa's reaction. What had I ever done to deserve such obvious disdain? Sure, we'd competed for the same promotion last year, but I'd graciously congratulated her when she got it. We'd disagreed on some project approaches, but that was normal in any professional environment. The intensity of her satisfaction at my downfall seemed disproportionate. I opened LinkedIn, updating my profile with shaking hands. 5 years at Maxwell Communications, gone. Just like that. As I scrolled through my feed, a notification popped up. Melissa had viewed my profile. Was she gloating? Checking to see if I'd updated my employment status already? The thought made my blood boil. That's when I noticed something interesting. A post from our CEO, thanking the team for their hard work during this transitional period and announcing that certain departments would be under review in the coming weeks, including marketing, including Melissa's position. I closed my laptop and took a deep breath. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up with a purpose. Instead of wallowing, I decided to be strategic. Maxwell Communications was one of the largest players in our industry, but they weren't the only game in town. I had connections, experience, and most importantly, insider knowledge of Maxwell's operations, strengths, and weaknesses. I reached out to Sarah, an old colleague who had left Maxwell 2 years ago for Vertex Solutions, their biggest competitor. We met for coffee that afternoon. I was wondering when you'd finally escape that place, Sarah said, sliding into the booth across from me. Maxwell's been hemorrhaging talent for months. Everyone knows their new product launch is a disaster waiting to happen. What do you mean? I asked, leaning forward. The Market Edge platform. The one Melissa's been leading. Word on the street is that it's buggy, behind schedule, and way over budget. But they're still planning to unveil it at the industry conference next month because they've already spent so much on marketing. I nearly choked on my latte. Market Edge was supposed to be Maxwell's big play to dominate the industry, a revolutionary marketing analytics platform that would give them a significant advantage over competitors like Vertex, and Melissa was the project lead. How do you know all this? I asked. Sarah grinned. You're not the only one who got laid off from Maxwell. We've hired 3 of your former colleagues in the past month. They've been ... informative. By the end of our coffee meeting, I had an interview scheduled with Vertex for the following week. But I also had something more valuable, a plan. I spent the next few days preparing for my interview, while also discreetly reaching out to former coworkers still at Maxwell. Under the guise of checking in and commiserating about the layoffs, I gathered more information about Market Edge's development issues and Melissa's leadership problems. The picture that emerged wasn't pretty. Melissa had overpromised capabilities to clients without consulting the development team. She'd ignored warnings about technical limitations. She'd blamed delays on team members who couldn't defend themselves. And most damning of all, she'd been reporting progress to upper management that simply didn't exist. My interview at Vertex went exceptionally well. My experience at Maxwell was exactly what they were looking for, and my insight into the industry was valuable. When they asked about Maxwell's upcoming Market Edge platform, I was careful to be professional but honest. There are some significant challenges with the product that I don't believe have been adequately addressed, I said diplomatically. The interviewer, Vertex's VP of Product Development, leaned forward. What kind of challenges? Integration issues with legacy systems, scalability concerns, and some fundamental flaws in the analytics engine that could lead to inaccurate data reporting. The VP exchanged glances with the HR director. That's very specific. I smiled. I pay attention to details. It's one of my strengths. 2 days later, Vertex offered me a position as a senior product consultant with a 20% salary increase over what I'd been making at Maxwell. I accepted immediately. But that wasn't the end of my plan. The industry conference where Maxwell was planning to unveil Market Edge was just 3 weeks away. I knew from my conversations with former colleagues that they were scrambling to fix the most glaring issues, but there was no way they could address all the problems in time. My first week at Vertex, I was invited to join their conference strategy team. They wanted to make a splash at the same event, and who better to help them understand what they were up against than someone fresh from their biggest competitor? We need to position ourselves as the stable, reliable alternative to whatever Maxwell is bringing to the table, said Marcus, Vertex's marketing director. I can help with that, I replied, and outlined a strategy that would highlight Vertex's strengths, precisely where Market Edge was weakest. As the conference approached, I kept tabs on Maxwell through my network. Melissa was apparently working around the clock, trying to salvage Market Edge before the big reveal. The pressure was immense, and according to my sources, she was cracking, blaming everyone but herself, making enemies of allies, burning bridges she couldn't afford to lose. The day before the conference, I received a text from Tim, my former manager at Maxwell. You might want to watch tomorrow's presentation. Things are ... interesting here. The industry conference was held at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Chicago, a sprawling event with thousands of attendees from across the country. Vertex had a prime spot on the exhibition floor, directly across from Maxwell's elaborate booth. From our position, we had a perfect view of their setup, including the large screen where they would demonstrate Market Edge. I spotted Melissa early that morning, pacing nervously behind the Maxwell booth, snapping at technicians who were setting up the demo. She looked terrible, hair disheveled, dark circles under her eyes. The polished professional image she always maintained now visibly fraying at the edges. Our eyes met across the exhibition floor. Her expression shifted from stress to shock to fury in the span of seconds as she registered my presence at the Vertex booth, wearing their company lanyard and engaged in animated conversation with their executive team. The conference kicked off with a keynote address, followed by breakout sessions throughout the morning. Maxwell's big Market Edge reveal was scheduled for 2 p.m. in the main exhibition hall. By 1:30, a sizable crowd had gathered in anticipation. Their marketing team had done an excellent job building hype, promising a revolutionary solution that will transform how businesses understand consumer behavior. At precisely 2 p.m., Maxwell's CEO took the stage, full of confidence and swagger. "Today, we're proud to unveil the future of marketing analytics," he announced to enthusiastic applause. "A platform that will give you insights you've never had access to before. And to demonstrate this game-changing technology, I'd like to invite the visionary behind Market Edge, our Director of Marketing Innovation, Melissa Anderson." Melissa strode onto the stage, somehow having pulled herself together to project her usual confidence. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the slight tremor in her hand as she took the microphone. "Thank you, everyone. I'm excited to show you what Market Edge can do," she began, launching into a well-rehearsed presentation about the platform's capabilities. For a few minutes, everything seemed to be going smoothly. The slides were professional, the claims impressive. But then came the live demonstration. "Now, let me show you Market Edge in action," Melissa said, turning to the large screen behind her. "We're going to analyze real-time social media sentiment for a major brand during a live product launch." She tapped a few keys on the laptop, and the screen displayed the Market Edge dashboard. So far, so good. But when she attempted to run the analysis, the system froze. Melissa laughed nervously. "Technology, right. Let me just restart this." The second attempt resulted in an error message displayed on the giant screen for everyone to see. "Fatal exception, analytics engine failure." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Melissa's face flushed red as she frantically tried to recover, but each attempt only made things worse. Numbers appeared that clearly didn't make sense. Charts contradicted each other. At one point, the system showed a 400% increase in negative sentiment alongside a graphic showing overwhelmingly positive customer feedback. From my position at the Vertex booth, I could see Maxwell's CEO shifting uncomfortably, his confident smile replaced by a tight grimace. The technical team behind the scenes appeared to be in full panic mode. After 10 excruciating minutes of failed attempts and increasingly desperate explanations, Melissa finally admitted defeat. "We seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties. If you'll bear with us, we can excuse me," a voice called from the audience. It was a representative from one of the largest potential clients for Market Edge. "Are these the same technical difficulties that caused you to miss the last 2 development milestones you promised us?" The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Melissa stammered, That's not. We've been making steady progress. That's not what your development team told us last week," the client representative continued. "They said the core analytics engine has fundamental flaws that you've been ignoring for months." All eyes turned to Melissa, whose professional demeanor was rapidly crumbling. "Who told you that?" "That's completely untrue." The Maxwell CEO stepped in, taking the microphone. "I think we should continue this conversation privately. If everyone could please visit our booth for more information about Market Edge and its capabilities." But the damage was done. The crowd began to disperse, many heading directly to competitor booths including ours at Vertex. Within minutes, we were swarmed with interested potential clients, many asking pointed questions about our analytics capabilities compared to what they'd just witnessed. As I answered questions and handed out Vertex marketing materials, I caught sight of Melissa being ushered backstage by Maxwell's CEO, his hand gripping her elbow tightly, his expression thunderous. Later that evening, at the conference networking reception, Word spread quickly about what had happened after the failed demonstration. Melissa had been called into an emergency meeting with Maxwell's executive team, right there at the conference center. According to someone who had an office next to the meeting room, the conversation had been heated, with voices raised enough to be heard through the door. I was standing at the bar, chatting with some new Vertex colleagues, when Tim approached me. "Hell of a day," he said, ordering a double scotch. "You missed quite the exit interview." "Exit interview," I repeated, though I already suspected what he meant. Tim nodded grimly. "Melissa's gone. Effective immediately. They're blaming the entire MarketEdge debacle on her. Which, to be fair, is at least 70% accurate." "What happened?" I asked, genuinely curious about the details. "After that disaster on stage, they pulled her into the Phoenix room upstairs. The CEO, the CTO, and the board chairman were waiting. They had emails, reports, documentation all showing that she'd been misleading everyone about MarketEdge's progress for months." "How did she react?" I couldn't help asking. Tim took a long sip of his scotch. "Not well. At first, she tried to blame the development team, then the QA testers, then the infrastructure guys. When that didn't work, she accused them of setting her up to fail. Then this is my favorite part, she said, and I quote, 'This is just like what happened with that worthless team member I got rid of last month.' I nearly choked on my drink. She said, 'What? Oh yeah. She specifically mentioned you by name, claimed you were incompetent, and that removing you from the team was essential for MarketEdge's success.'" Tim shook his head. "Bad move on her part. Why's that?" I asked, though I was beginning to see where this was going. "Because the board chairman then pulled out the organizational assessment they'd commissioned after the layoffs. Turns out, every single person in your former department identified Melissa's leadership as the primary problem. And the technical audit they rushed through this past week confirmed that all the issues you'd documented and escalated, the ones Melissa dismissed, were exactly what caused today's failure." I felt a complex mix of emotions: vindication, certainly, but also a strange kind of emptiness. This wasn't how I'd imagined Melissa's comeuppance would feel. "They gave her the option to resign or be fired," Tim continued. "She chose to be fired, probably thinking about wrongful termination lawsuits or something. But then they laid out all the documentation showing willful misrepresentation to clients and upper management. She wasn't laughing after that." "I can imagine," I said quietly. Tim finished his scotch and clapped me on the shoulder. "For what it's worth, a lot of us miss having you on the team. And from what I hear, Maxwell's loss is Vertex's gain." After Tim left, I stood at the bar for a long moment, reflecting on the chain of events. I hadn't directly caused Melissa's downfall. She'd engineered that herself through her own actions. All I'd done was position myself to succeed elsewhere and be present to witness the inevitable collapse. As I scanned the reception, I caught sight of Melissa, near the exit, alone, furiously typing on her phone. No one approached her, no one acknowledged her. The industry's collective cold shoulder was already in effect. For a brief moment, our eyes met across the room. I expected anger, accusation, perhaps even confrontation. Instead, I saw something unexpected: recognition, not of me specifically, but of the situation, of consequences finally catching up, of reaping what she had sown. I raised my glass slightly, not in mockery, but in acknowledgement of the strange symmetry of our circumstances. She'd laughed when I was laid off. She wasn't laughing at her exit interview. But neither of us had truly won in this corporate Game of Thrones. She held my gaze for a moment longer, then turned and walked out of the reception and, effectively, out of the industry. 6 months later, Vertex's analytics platform, which I helped develop based on a clear understanding of MarketEdge's failures, captured 40% of the market share Maxwell had been targeting. Maxwell eventually scrapped MarketEdge entirely and pivoted to a different business strategy. As for Melissa, I heard through the grapevine that she left the tech industry and opened a yoga studio in Sedona. Sometimes I wonder if she found more peace there than in the cutthroat corporate world where we both tried to succeed. I still have the world's okayest employee mug on my desk at Vertex, where I was recently promoted to Vice President of Product Strategy. It serves as a daily reminder that in the professional world, as in life, how you treat people matters. Technical skills can be learned, but character is revealed in how you respond to both success and failure. When I look back at that day, I was laid off and heard Melissa's laugh. I no longer feel anger. Instead, I feel something like gratitude. That moment pushed me toward a better position, a healthier work environment, and a valuable lesson. Professional success built on undermining others is a house of cards impressive until the slightest breeze comes along. If you've enjoyed this story and want to hear more about navigating workplace challenges, overcoming professional setbacks, and building a career with integrity, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos where I share the lessons I've learned through my professional journey. Leave a comment below if you've ever experienced a similar situation, or if you have questions about handling difficult coworkers. Remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's moving forward and succeeding on your own terms.